very fast. Yeah, today I'm going to introduce chapter 4. And what you have learned, what you have realized that in our chapter 2, it was the longest, but chapter 3 was the shortest, and also chapter 4 is going to be the shortest, and I will take only about an hour. I'll be through with chapter 4. Then chapter 5 also will be the shortest. The longest chapter will be chapter 6 and 7. That is where we'll spend a lot of time. So where we have very short chapters, it is just good we go very fast so that our time will be compensated when now we'll start tackling the long chapters. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share now my screen. Allow me to share my screen. And I really appreciate for your patience. Give me a minute, the Jupyter Notebook is loading. Yes, now the Jupyter Notebook has loaded. Let me go straight away up to chapter 4. Because last week we covered about the input function and we finished on our chapter 3. So in our chapter 4, this is where now our second project will come from. We are going to cover now the Boolean. We are going to cover the conditional execution. And in conditional execution, we'll start with a Boolean. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you can now see my screen, and if I'm audible, please type yes so that I can be sure I'm not teaching myself. I want to be pretty sure I'm not teaching myself. So if you can clearly hear me, please type yes on your screen. I don't know where is my Zoom. I'm not in a position. Yes. Yeah, people can pretty hear me. Let me put on my video so that also you can know. It is just because of Ari, please. I had forgotten to put on my video. Now, this is it. Uh, yes, we'll start with the conditional execution. What are we going to learn in conditional execution? The first thing is we are going to learn about Boolean expression. What are these Boolean expression in Python programming? Sometimes we normally call them predicates and may have only one of two possible values, false or true. So Boolean expression in my Python programming tries to answer a question if it is true or false. And we have got 6 type of this Boolean expression. We have got 6 type of Boolean expression. And the first one is equal sign. You need to know how to put an equal sign in Python programming. How are you going to put an equal sign in Python programming? As you can see my screen, an equal sign in Python programming, we normally put the double equal sign, the double equal sign. So the double equal sign in Python programming means x is equals to y. You need to differentiate between an equality operator and an assignment operator. When you want to assign in Python programming, we normally use a single equal sign. But when we want to show equality in Python programming, we use a double equal sign. For example, in that case where you see x is equal to y, that means x is equals to y. Then the second case, that means x is less than y. You see we have used a less than sign. Then the third one, that means x is less than or is equals to y. Then the fourth one, that means x is greater than y. Then the fifth one, it was supposed to be written as x is greater or is equals to y. The fourth one, it means x is greater or is equals to y, not less or is equals to. It was just a typo error. Then the last one, it means x is not equal to y. Where you see now x, that exclamation mark is equals to y, it just means x is not equal to y. When you observe the table 4.1 below, when 10 is less than 20, in real case, we know that 10 is less than 20. So we are expecting Python to tell us, to give us the answer as true, because in real case, 10 is less than 20. Then the second example, where we are saying 10 is greater or is equals to 20. 10 is not greater or is equals to 20. So in Boolean expression, Python program, it will display for you false. Then the other case where you have x is less than 100. This means if x is in between 0 to 99, Python will give us true. But if x is either 100 or greater than 100, Python will give us false. Then you see here, x is not equal to y. X is not equal to y. It will only be true if x is not equal to y. For example, x is 5 and y is 9. That means x is not equal to y. But if x is 9 and y is 9, it means x is equals to y. So it will give a false answer. Examples. So in my cell 10, you see I've assigned x to 20. I've said x is equals to 20. Then y is equals to 35. Now, I want to compute so that I can find out if x is equals to y, if really x is equals to y. So when I will run this cell 16, you will see the output here. It is giving me false. Why is it giving me false? It is giving me false because x is not equal to y, because I have assigned x 20 and y is equals to 35. Therefore, x is not equal to y. The second example, I want now to find out if x is not equal to y. If x is not equal to y. You see I've assigned x 20 and y 35. And you see when x is equals to 20 and y 35, this means they are not equal. So Python will compute and it will give out a true results. So when I run this code, you will see that it gives me that x is not equal to y. That is true. And in the first case, when I was trying to say x is equals to 1, it gave me a false answer because x is 20 and y is 35. But if I could have put x 20 and y 20, and then I tried to run that cell, it could have given me a true answer. And for the second case, if I try to say x is not equal to y, it will give me a false answer. And let me change it the way it was at 5. Then I run it. Again, I run it. You see that true. Then in the other case, I'm trying to find out if x is less than y. If x is less than y. So you see x is 20 and y is 35. So when I run, you will get it is true. X is less than y. Then the other thing I want to get if x is less than or is equals to y. So I've written here x is less than or is equals to 1. When I run, it gives me true because x is less than or is equals to y. So there are two conditions, less than or is equals to. So x is not equal to that to y, which is 35, but x is less than y, which is 20. So when I will run, you will see it will compute for me. The result is true. Then when I say x is greater than or is equals to y, it will compute and give me the false results, because when you see x is 20 and y is 35, so x is not greater than y or not equal to. It could only be greater than or equal to if x could have been 35 or 36. Now, the other thing you are going to learn is how to assign Boolean variables, how to assign Boolean variables. And I've told you in Boolean variables, it is either assigned true or false output. Now I have a variable A, and this variable A, I'm assigning it to a Boolean value true. And then I have another variable B, and I'm assigning it to a variable, to a Boolean variable false. So I want the results to be printed for A and the B. And as I've been teaching you from chapter 2, this is if you want now your results to be displayed on the screen, we normally use the print function. Now you will come as a Python programmer and you say print A is equals to A and B is equals to B. What are you expecting as a Python programmer? This is where now you are expecting the program to give the output true or false. So in this case, I've assigned A is equals to true, then B is equals to false. Then in my second case, I'm coming now to reassign. I'm coming now to reassign A to be false. So in this second case, when now I will want the program to display those Boolean variables, and I use the print function. So in this second case, because I've reassigned, in the first case, A was true, but in the second case, now I've reassigned A to be false. So when I will be printing, it will give me the value of A to be false and also the value of B to be false. In contrary with the first case, where it gave me the value of A to be true and the value of B to be false. Then now I want also to reassign B. And in our initial case, our B was false. But here now I'm reassigning B to be true. I'm reassigning and then I come and say print A is equals to A and B is equals to B. In this case, now in the third case, because I've reassigned now B is equals to true, in this third case, the value of A, Python will just remember from our second case. So it will take on from our second case, and it will tell us now the value of A is false and the value of B is true. So if I run this,
sir, we can't see
We are
your
not.
screen.
yes,
We can't see your screen. You have stopped sharing.
I don't know what has happened. Let me share again, please. Thank you for that. I hope you can now see my screen.
Yes, now it's visible.
Okay, thank you a lot. So what I was trying to explain now, we want to assign a variable to a Boolean variable. And as I've told you earlier, a Boolean variable always answer a true or false response. So I'm assigning A to be true and B to be false. Then I want the value of A and B to be displayed. And as I've been telling you, for anything to be displayed on the screen in Python programming, we normally use the inbuilt print function. So when we will use this inbuilt print function, it will give me A is equals to true and B is equals to false. Then after that, I want to reassign. I want to reassign A. In our first case, A was true, but now I want to reassign now A to be false. So when I will reassign A to be false, and I print the output, it will give me now for the second case, A is true, false, and then B is false. Then on my third case, I want now to reassign B. And now on my third case, I want to reassign B from false to true. So I'll say B is equals to true. Then I will print the output. When I will print this output, I will now say print A is equals to A and B is equals to B. Because now I've reassigned B to true, this it will change now. For my third case, it will print A, which now it will take over from the second case, which I had reassigned it to be false. And now B, it will be now true. It will no longer be false as I had assigned it earlier. When I run this cell, you see the output. The first A was true, B was false. Then when I reassigned A to be false, it gave me now for the second case, A is equals to false and B remained to be false. Then I reassigned now the value of B to be true because on our first case, B was false. And when I reassign it to be true, on my third case now, it will give me A is equals to false and B is equals to true. Boolean expression. We need to know what is a Boolean expression. It is an expression comparing numeric expression for equality or inequality. For example, when you have been given a value, let me say something. Yes, for example, when you have been given, let me pass through something there. The relational operators are binary operators and are all left associative. They all have lower precedency than any of the arithmetic operators. Now, in the level of, in the order of precedence that we covered last week, we saw various levels of precedence, and I encourage you to use the American curriculum. In our Kenyan curriculum, it is BODMAS, but when you go to American curriculum, it is PEMDAS, PEDMAS, or BIDMAS. So when you will use that, you will get this very clearly. So you see there, the relational operators are binary operators and are left associative. This means when the precedence normally carries weight from the left. That is why they call it left associative. Now, as I've defined the Boolean expression, it is an expression comparing numeric expression for equality or inequality. So when you see x plus 2, then you see a less than sign. That is an expression for equality or inequality. So it means x plus 2 is less than y divided by 10. That is an example of a Boolean expression. You can also write this Boolean expression in Python programming. You can express them while using parentheses or brackets. When you want to use brackets, x plus 2 will be one thing is less than y divided by 10. Now, in this Boolean expression, we will start with a simple if statement. You have to know what is a simple if statement. I think it was a class of last week or a class of last week, but one, where we were making a program to compute a divisor and a dividend. And when we were trying to come up with 32 and 0, it threw an error. And I remember one of the trainees asked me a question: how can we do to avoid such an error? And I told him that that one we will tackle it in chapter 4 or 5. So for you now to avoid that error, you have to use a Boolean function. And in this Boolean function, you will have now to introduce a simple if statement. For example, now we want to make the same program where a programmer can be able to divide two numbers. So you get two integers from the user, and these two integers from the user, it is a divisor and a dividend. It is a divisor and a dividend. So this divisor and a dividend, you have to enter your divisor. You have to enter your divisor. You have to define your dividend and your divisor. So after defining your dividend and your divisor, you see in my case, I have the dividend there as a minute, please. Just okay, thank you. Evil. What is the function of evil? An evil function, when you use it in Python programming, it will, this means a program will either accept an int, float, or a string. Then you say input. Because an input function, this means now you are requesting something now from the user. Please enter two numbers to divide. Now, you see, in our last lesson, I taught you about comments. I'm giving you all the steps that I'm following in my algorithm. Here I've written, if possible, divide them and report the results. So if possible, you divide them and report the results. So you see now, I'm introducing now the simple if statement. So this division will only be successful if divisor is not equal to 0. You see, I've written here, if divisor is not equal to 0. That exclamation mark and equal sign in Python programming is what we call, not equal to. And this, in Python programming, when you start with if, that means it is a condition. You are coming as a programmer, you are coming out with a condition. And in any condition in Python programming, it must be followed by a block. What is a condition? Those are the rules that that a program must be satisfied for it to be executed. So you start always with a condition when you use an if statement. Then you give a block. A block is what should be now executed. And when you are writing a condition in Python programming, you have to note a condition must end with a full colon. A condition must end with a full colon. For instance, you can see here I've written if divisor is not equal to 0, then full colon. What must follow? What must follow? I say print dividend, then divide by divisor is equals to dividend divided by divisor. So you take now the dividend, you divide by a divisor. And after you have written a condition in Python programming, you have to indent. What is indenting is to bend. After the condition, the block must somehow bend. It should not be aligned in the same line. It should somehow bend. For example, you see my print, it has bent. But if I will not make my print to bend, I make it to align with if, it will throw for me an error. It will throw for me an error. And you see the error which is throwing for me is indentation error. So what does it mean? I have not followed the law of indentation in Python programming, because when you are writing any conditional statement, and the conditional statement is if, while, else, it must be followed by an indentation. So you see, when I will intend this print function, Python will run and it will ask me for those two numbers. So it is asking me for those two numbers. You realize in our first example, when I used to enter 32 and 0, it threw for me an error. But in this case, when I will enter the same 32 and 0, it will not throw for me an error. Why is it not throwing for me an error? Because now I've used the conditional if. And in this conditional if, I've just set it that if divisor is less than or equal to 0. So because I've taken my dividend is 32 and my divisor is 0, Python will not compute. In this case, it will just remain there and it will give me an output. Please enter 2 numbers to divide. And those 2 numbers which I had entered, it will display them, 32 and 0. So in this case, it is not displaying for me an error. It will just remain that way. But when I enter other number, such as 32, 4, it will give me the results. It will say 32 divided by 4 is 8.0. But when I enter a number which the divisor is 0, it will not throw an error, but it will just display those numbers and it won't compute anything. So when I enter 42 and 0, for example, it will just write them, but it won't compute. Now, the difference this time is that it doesn't throw an error. But in our lesson last week, it threw an error. Why did it throw an error? It threw an error because we didn't take care of that condition. We were just writing a program without a condition. But when you want to avoid that error, you have to put a condition. This is just the flowchart diagram of that code, which I've written in cell 16. In your free time, you will just pass through it. Now, in this one, I'm writing the same program. I'm writing the same program. But now, this one, as a programmer, I'm expecting it, when it gets a number such as 0, which it can't divide, it doesn't write for me. It doesn't just write for me divide 32 and 0. It gives me the next step. And what I want now the program to display in this next step, I want it to display for me program finished. So how am I going to write it? So I will start now by defining my dividend and divisor. I will say now dividend and divisor. This means I'm going to prompt the program to ask for a dividend and a divisor from the user. Then I will say eval. Eval, this means the program will accept an integer, float, or a string. Then I put my condition. And after putting my condition, I say if divisor is not equal to 0. And I've told you that a condition must end with a full colon. And then after the condition, you must do indentation. When you will fail to do indentation, the program will throw an error. You see now here, I'm saying quotient. I'm saying quotient is equals to dividend divided by a divisor. You see this quotient, I've intended it. And after intending it, you see it is red in color. But if I will fail to indent it, for example, let me show you. I fail to indent it. I put it that way. You see, it is not red in color. And when I will run it, it will give me indentation error. So after a conditional statement, you have to indent the block that follows. And the block that follows is what Python program should execute. So that is why you see I've indented it. Let me indent it up to that point. I've intended it. And after intending it, I've said now quotient is equals to divisor, dividend divided by a divisor. Then I want now Python to print for me dividend divided by a divisor is equals to quotient. And you see this print is inside the if statement, is inside the if statement. So that means those are the same block within the if condition. Then after that, if maybe the program will not have satisfied, the divisor will not be equal to the divisor. If the divisor is equals to 0, it will display, is not equal to 0, it will display for me the value of the quotient. But if the divisor is 0, Now the program will print for me, program finished. So when I run this code, you see it is asking me, please enter two numbers to divide. I enter the two numbers such as 43 and 6. When I enter those two numbers and I press enter, you see it computes for me 43 divided by 6 is equals to 7.16 recurring. But now, and now the last thing it tells me, program finished. But now, when I enter this 43 and 0, and then I press enter, you see it is not computing anything. It tells me just program finished. Why is it not computing anything? Because 43 cannot be divided by 0. 43 cannot be divided by 0. In our earlier cases, when you are not using the conditional if, it used to throw for us an error. But now that error is taken care by the conditional if. Then the other thing I want to teach you is the different way how you can write your condition and a block. We have got two different ways when you want to write your block, your condition and your block. Now, in this case, I'm assigning x, my variable x, I'm assigning it to the value 10. After I have assigned it to the value 10, I say now, I start now my condition. And the condition is just simple. For example, when you are telling your children back at home, if you will not read, I will punish you. So if you will not read, that is the condition. Then what you will execute or what you will do to these children if they will not read, you have said that you will punish them. That is now what we call our block. What now the program is supposed to execute. So first of all, I've started by saying assigning my variable x to a value 10. Then I say if x is equals to 10, that is my condition, and you see it has ended with a full colon. What should it do? I'm telling now print 10. Print 10. So you see, if x is equals to 10, print 10. So when I will run, true, x is equals to 10. And you see it has now printed 10. That is the first way how now you can write your condition and your block. The second case, you come and assign x is equals to 10 and then write everything on the same line. You write the condition and the block on the same line. It will just give you the same thing. In this case, I said x is equals to 10. Then I'm saying if x is equals to 10, full colon, print 10. When I will run, it will just give me 10. Now, the thing which I want you to note, that double equal sign is it is what we call relational equality operator. You should not confuse it with an assignment operator. Assignment operator, we have only a single equal sign. But when we are dealing with relational equality operator, we have got the double equal sign. I think I've covered, I've shown you how to write if, conditional if, and block in separate lines, and how now to combine them. Now in cell 29, it is just the same thing which I've covered. And here now, it is when you want to say if 1, print 1. Now this is where now you have combined them. Now, the other thing where you will use an if statement. For example, you want to write a program, and this program, it will get a number from 0 up to 9,999. How are you going to write that program? For you to write that program, you need to now take into consideration a conditional if statement. For example, now I'm setting now my numerical value to be num. Then I say num is equals to eval. Why am I saying eval? I'm setting my program either to accept a float or an int. Then I say input. This means now I'm prompting the user to get now an input from him or her. Then I say if num is less than 0, that is my condition. And you see, after writing it, if num is less than 0, I'll finish it with a full colon. Then what should it be executed by Python program? Then I'm saying num is equals to 0. Then the second thing, because I want to write a program that will get a number from 0 up to 9,999. So that means it should have two conditions and two blocks. So the second condition, I'm saying now, if num is greater than 9,999, I'm saying num is equals to 9,999. So I want to explain something here. So for example, when you enter a number which is greater than 9,999, I'm creating this program. It will assume that number and it will just write that number, and below it, it tells you the limit for this program is 9,999. On the other case, if you enter a number such as -1, that number is less than 0. But in this program, I'm making it in such a way, it will assume that number and just give you 0. Now, these other parts is just part of this program. So where I'm saying now print end is equals to, now this print, it is an inbuilt function that prompts Python now to display. And that is the, as I taught you in our earlier chapters, that is the standard way of calling print function. Then I'm saying digit is equals to num. Then you see those double backslash. In Python programming, it means that is floor division. You are determining the thousands place digits, because when you see this 9,999, when you go to according to, I think, place value, it is ones, tens, hundred, and thousands. So you have to take care of thousands place digits. Then you say print digit end. Now you are printing that thousands place digit. Then in the same program, you will want to discard any remainder. How are you going to discard this remainder? So that is where now you say num, then that percentage sign, it is for modular. And I told you the modulus is just for remainder. You say now percentage is equals to 1,000. That means you are going to discard any remainder in this program. You will do the same thing up to the end. But what I want you to get it clear is for you to know how to assign the conditional if statement. That is the most important thing in this chapter. A conditional if statement, it must end with a full colon, and it must be followed by a block. So that is what will be examinable. But these other things is just when you want to make a program, you will just follow. What I want you to get, it is just line 1, 2, and 3, where we have num is equals to eval if num is less than 0, and if num is greater than 9,999. That is what I want you to get it clearly. How to write an if condition, ending it by a full colon, and how now to to write a block. And a block, as I've told you earlier, is how this program will be executed. Though these other things up to the last code, I will want you just to follow it on your free time. But in your exam, that can't be examined. What will be examined is if you just know how to use an if condition and followed by its block. For example, in this program which I've made, when I will run it and I enter a number such as -1, and I press enter, you see it will just write for me -1 in parentheses 000. That means that this program cannot accommodate -1, but it can only accommodate starting from 0. When I run the same program and I put there 5, you will see it will execute, and it will give me now in that bracket 0.005. When I run the same and I put there 10,000, you will see it won't give me this 10,000, but in bracket it will give me 9,999. That means the program is trying to prompt the user that the limit is only up to 9,999. So it can't accept 10,000 and above. If else statement. So we are going now to learn how if and else statement is used. Now, if that is our first condition. So when the first condition has not been met, that is when now we go to the second condition. And this second condition is else. For example, I want to divide 32 divide by 0. And you see the condition, the first condition is if divisor is not equal to 0. But in this, I've put my divisor to be equal to 0. So it means the first condition has not been met. So if the first condition now has not been met, we go to the second alternative. You can say, for example, if you don't know how to use R, you can use Python. That is an alternative. So that is the same way how we normally use if-else statement in Python programming. Now, the first statement, if the first statement is not met, we go to the else part. And this else part, it gives us an alternative. And as you can see in this program, it is just the same as the program which you have been writing of a divisor and a dividend and a divisor. And this alternative, in this alternative, you normally assign it by using an else statement. So if 32 is not divided by 0, what are you prompting the program? Hello?
Sir, your screen has disappeared.
Yeah, you know, when you fail to record, it disappears.
I am
when the recording stops.
I am recording.
When the recording stops, it disappears.
The recording hasn't stopped.
There is a point which it stopped. Okay,
No,
I'm sharing. Okay, I think you can now see my screen. Are you able to see my screen from your side?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm saying, when now you are using if-else statement, is when now the first statement, if the first statement has not been met, the program goes and executes now the second statement. So for example, I'm saying if divisor is not equal to 0, and I put my dividend to be 32 and my divisor to be 0. In this case, you see now the divisor is 0. So this means Python will not be able to compute. So you give now your program an alternative, and this alternative is normally covered by the else statement. So in my else statement, I say print division by 0 is not allowed. So in this now, if now it gets a divisor which is 0, it will tell me division by 0 is not allowed. And this division by 0 is being taken care by the else condition, is being taken care by the else condition. The divisor is not equal to 0 is being taken care by the if statement. But if it is 0, it is being taken care by the else statement. Let me run. Now, when I enter a number such as 32 and 4, and I press enter, it will compute and gives me the output to be 8. But now in this case, I enter 32 and 0. Now it won't throw an error because I've taken care for that error by using an else statement. It will tell me division by 0 is not allowed. Division by 0 is not allowed. This is the flowchart of if-else statement. And as I've told you, if is a condition, then a condition must be followed by a block. You saw we add an if condition, and in this case, our if condition was if divisor is not equal to 0. Then it was followed by an if block. An if block was print dividend divided by divisor is equals to dividend divided by divisor. Then we add our else. And I've told you this else will only come when now you have put your divisor to be 0. Now you will put now your else condition, then your else block. Another example where we can use the if else. For example, you have been given two numbers, D1 and D2. And in those two numbers, you are expected to do subtraction. So you have been given D1 is 1.11 minus 1.10. Then D2 is 1.11 minus 2.10. So we want to come up with our if and else statement. Now we say if D is equal to D2. You see that is my condition. I've finished it by a full colon. Then the condition has to be followed by a block. What am I expecting the program to execute? I am expecting the program to print same. Then, because I want to execute an if-else statement, I will say else print different. So if it will get D1 is not equal to D2, it will print different. Now, you see there I've written those numbers. When I will run, you see it gives me D1. The difference D1 is 0.01 and D2 is negative 0.99. So it tells me difference. What if I come here and change this one to 3, and then I compute? You see it gives me D1. What am I trying to do? I wanted it to give me same. I come here and change it to 2. You see now it gives, when I run, it gives me, wanted to change it. I want it to be the same. I don't know. Yeah, it still gives me different. It still gives me different. I wanted something which will give me the same thing. Now, let me just come here and put it 1. And here also, I put it 1. So when I will run, you see it will give me the same, because the first difference it is 0.01 and the second difference it is 0.01. So that is how easy you can use the if-else statement. Then the other thing is Boolean, compound Boolean expression. The other thing is compound Boolean expression, and we'll tackle the compound Boolean expression. We'll start by now the nested ifs. We'll start by tackling the nested if. Now, the nested if from a layman approach, what is just nested if? For you to understand this thing pretty well, you have the nested if. Just derive it from the word nest. That means it is something which is now conjoined. It is something which is conjoined. Before you go to now the programming meaning of it, you have to interpret it using just a layman's definition. And nest, it is just conjoined, the same way a bird makes a nest. So nested if, this is a situation where if condition can be followed by another if condition, or an else condition can be followed by another else condition. Or where now, instead of having an if statement following each other, you can now combine an if and. You can combine an if and. So in Python programming, we can say the statement in the block of the if or else may be any Python statement, include other if-else statement. This nested if statement can be used to develop arbitrarily complex control flow logic. So we'll go by example. For example, you want a value, and this value you want to enter it in an eval form where it will accept an int or float. Then you start now your condition. My first condition is if value is greater or is equal to 10. That is my first now condition. When now I will have the second condition, starting with the same if, that is what we call the conditional. That is what we call the nested conditionals. That is what we call the nested conditional. You saw in our earlier case, if was being followed by else. But in this case, if is being followed by if, or else is being followed by another else. So that is what we call nested conditional. Instead of if being followed by else, if is being followed by another if. So here we have two conditions. If value is greater than or is equals to 10, that is my first condition. Then you see I've intended. This means the second if is within the first if. When the second if is within the first if, that is what we call nested conditionals. So the second if, I'm saying if value is less or is equals to 10, that is now my second if, which means my second condition. Now, you see I have two conditions. Now, in the nested condition, we have two conditions, if followed by if, then we have a block. In this case, we don't have a condition, a block, but we have two conditions, then a block. So you see here, print in range. And if yes, what am I? If now you have printed in range, you have now to tell Python that what you have entered is either in range or not in range. So you have now to display to this program that it is done. So if I'll go now by the practice, when I run this, you see it will ask me, please enter an integer value in the range 0 to 10. What if I enter 12? You just see, it will just write for me that 12 and tell me done. But what if now I will enter something which is in range, like 4, and I press? You see now, in this second case, it is different from the first case. It has written for me 4, then it has written for me in range. But when I had written 12, it didn't write for me in range. It only wrote for me done. So this 4 is in range. It has satisfied this two nested conditional, the if. It has satisfied both of them, and therefore it is in range. But when I enter something which is not in between 0 to 10, such as -1, it will not write for me in range. It will just write for me done. So what I want you to get, ladies and gentlemen, when if is being followed by another if. That is what we call nested conditional. Or while is followed by another while, else another else. That is just nested conditional. And when you write them, the first when you write the first condition, before you write the second condition, you have to do what we call indentation. You see this second if, it is not aligned the first if. I've done indentation. If I will fail to indent it, I write it that way, it will give me an error. And that error is what we call indentation. Because why are you getting that error? Python is failing to interpret between the first condition and the second condition. So when you have written the first condition and you want to write now the second condition in the nested form, you have now to indent. And you see, after indenting, in the first case, when you are writing just a word should be in red. But when you are writing a condition, you see that if is in red. A condition should not be in red. You press the space bar until it turns to green. So you press again, you see it is still red. You press again, it is still red. You press again, it is green. So when it is that green, it means it has been intended. But when you could have just left it in red form, when you will run it, it will still, it will run. But when you will enter a value such as 6, it should not. I was expecting it, but the good way, the good practice of programming, you ensure this second if it is intended up to the point it turns to be green. So for example, now when you run and put 667, that one is not in range. It will just write for you done. But when you put anything that is in range, such as 7, it will write for you 7 and tell you in range, then it will tell you done. Another way of how to write the nested if, is you can now decide to use and. You can now decide to use and. You will now assign your value. Value is equals to even. Now in the second case, instead of using two ifs, you use and. You say if value is greater than or is equals to 0 and value is less than or is equals to 0, you just put them in one line. Then you put a comma. Then you follow it by a block. A block must follow now your condition. And your block you want to print in range. Then after you have printed in range, you want to inform now Python to tell the programmer he or she has finished. That is done. So when I run this and I say, for example, 87, you will see it will write for me 87 and it will tell me done. The same case, when I write something which is within the range, such as 8, it will compute, it will give me 8, it will tell me it is in range and then done. Another example now is when you have you want Python now to give you some more alternatives when using the nested if. In this case, you see I've written value is equals to even. Then I want to input, please enter an integer value which is within range 0 to 10. Now I'm starting my condition. If value is greater than or is equals to 0, that is the first condition. I put a full colon. Then another condition, I want now to set if value is less than or is equals to 10. That is now the second condition. Then I want now Python to execute the following. Print value is in range. Now, when it is now in between 0 to 10, and you have written, you have input a value which is in between that range, it will print is in range. And what if you enter a value which is less than 0 or greater than 10. So these values now will be taken care by the else statement. Now, you will come and write else. And this else must be aligned with the second if. You see my else now is aligned with the second if. You will say else print value is too large. So when you enter a value which is greater than 10, it will print now. In this case, it will not just display done. It will print it is too large. Then you use another else. This else now, it will take care of the first if, second if, and this first else. So it will take care of everything from line 1 up to where we have this first else. So it will print now, print value is too small. Then you'll say print done. Now, when I run this and I enter a number such as 0, you see it is in range. It will tell me is in range. What if I enter a number such as negative 2 and I press enter? It will display for me negative 2. Then it will tell me is too small. What if now I enter a number such as 15? It will display for me 15, and then it will tell me it's too large. So in this nested conditional, it has taken care the number which is in range, the number which is too large, and the number which is too small. So when you use the nested ifs together with else statement, it will satisfy all the three. It will satisfy all the three conditions. It will satisfy all the three conditions. The other thing which I wanted to cover yes, I think up to this juncture, I think it might be enough for today so that you can absorb this conditional if. Now, let me just let me just leave it there, because when I will try to add more things, and this is something which I've just introduced, you might be getting more confused. So you have to go and digest it when you retire, so that you can get each and every bit of it. Thank you very much. This other codes, it needs some more time for me to be to explain it in detail. But now our second project, it will cover on, I will expect you to write just a simple program that can be able to compute a quadratic equation. And also I will expect you to write a simple program that can be able to grade students in a school. And in this now, this is where we'll be using if and else statement, and the marks will be distributed from 0 to 100. That is the thing which you will apply in this chapter. And if I will just touch on it, on how to grade, I've clearly put it in my notebook, the two different ways of using if and elif statement to grade. So for you to be able to grade, and for example, you want to grade a student and give remarks, you want to write a simple program of doing so. When in Python you want to do that, we normally use if elif statements. We normally use if elif statement. And as you can see, I've made a simple program For example, in my program there, I'm saying max is equals to eval. Then I'm expecting the user to enter max 0 to 100. If max is less than 0, that is my condition. What should the program do? It should print not allowed. Then elif, that is now an otherwise. Elif 0 is less or is equals to max, or is less than 30. That is another condition. Then the block is print mark, then it assigns the grade, and then the comment is weak. So when you return, I will want you to pass through those codes. There is 2 different ways of assigning, of how to make such a program. You can use this one or the other one below here, where now it is just the same thing, but I've written it in 2 different ways. For example, when I run this and I enter a mark such as 89, on how I've made this program, it will display that the student got 89%, which is grade A, excellent. In this other one, I've just make it in the same way, but the way I've written the codes in the second case, it slightly differs with how I've written in the first case. If I will enter the mark such as 89 and I press enter, it will just give me the student scored 89%, which is grade A, then excellent. So when you retire, I want you to go and practice those 2 cells before chapter 5. Practice those 2 cells. You know how to make a simple program that can be able to grade students. And also, I want you to go and practice on those programs of how to calculate area of a rectangle, how to calculate perimeter, how to do quadratic equation, how to make a program that can be able to compute quadratic equation. When you will practice that enough, you will be in a position to do project 2. Thank you very much. And because I've told you that those last lines, you will practice by yourself. So next week I will only take at most 20 minutes to finish chapter 4. Then we will go straight to chapter 5, which now deals with iteration. Thank you very much, and may God bless you. Unless somebody has a question.
You're going to send this Jupyter?
No,
the one I'm using.
No, the Jupyter notebook that you have, it has got all those things.
No, for practice, this one, the notes, this one that I've just seen, are you able to send it there so that one can just follow?
Yeah, what I'm saying, the one I sent earlier, it has got all those things that I've shown here.
All right.
Maybe the recording, please.
Yes, I will share the recording before 10 p.m. today. It has to be processed first, then I share it.
And if possible, the questions is if you can send them in the WhatsApp.
Yes, okay. They are also, I have also written them in the chat. If you scroll the chat, you will see where I have written the questions.
Yes, I'm passing through the questions.
No, not the question. I mean, she meant the assignments you have given.
Yeah, the assignment I'll just send. I'm going to prepare a PDF document.
Okay.
Yeah. Any question, please? Any question or any complaint?
Yeah, yes. Can I ask something?
Yes, you can ask.
The Jupyter notebook that you shared,
Yes.
I downloaded it in my initial computer was able to open it, but there's a computer I'm using currently that if it says open with. Now I'm wondering open with what? So it is not opening it. But I want to go to the internet. It is not just open. What could be the problem?
No, the Jupyter notebook, you have to open, you open it through the Jupyter notebook.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, you have to open it through the Jupyter notebook. You have to go to the Anaconda, open the Jupyter notebook, then you open it through there.
Okay.
Yes. So you know, I've realized your challenge. You are opening it like you want to open a Word document.
You are right.
But Mark, I don't think
Yes.
I have that. I don't think I have that note. I don't know. Maybe you share with me.
Let me just share the notebook again in the WhatsApp group. Just a minute, I'm sharing it.
All right.
I don't know where this notebook is. And then the people who have got WhatsApp GB, that one is a corrupted version of WhatsApp. You can't download this thing with WhatsApp GB. It will just disturb you. Just have the normal WhatsApp. Anything else? Let me show Philip how to open this thing. It is good for.
But then, is it possible to be sent on emails? Because I see, I have the WhatsApp normal from the computer, and it's not downloading it on my computer.
Unless somebody just makes one email, you know, sending it through each individual email. Sometimes it is very challenging. It gives us a lot of work, and you know, human beings don't love a lot of work. Unless we make just one email. Who is volunteering to make it? Where each and everyone can access.
But if we give you our email addresses, you can send it once. You just copy to all the email addresses once and you send it. It will come to all of us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kindly send me your email addresses and then I'll send them to you.
So
yes.
Each and everyone can send the email address in a document, so that when I want to send it, I just copy all the mails and paste. And please, there is somebody who normally joins with a lot of noise. The kids are making noise. Even such a person, I just advise, just remove him or her from the meeting, please.
Okay.
Yes. So any question? Are you in a position to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. You know, the Zoom had thrown me out of the meeting for some few seconds.
You have to show me how to open it in.
Yeah, I want to show you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to show you. I'd forgotten, please. Thank you. Now,
Yvonne, I've sent you my email address while Levi is still working on showing that one.
Okay.
On your WhatsApp, I've just written, so you could send me that document. I'll appreciate it.
Okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to be Keen, I show you something so that you cannot be having any problem. For example, ladies and gentlemen, you have downloaded that Jupyter notebook in your computer, isn't it? I'm assuming. Now you come here, you can't just, for example, let me show you the mistake Philip was making. He wanted to open a notebook. For example, I want to open a notebook in computer vision, my notebook here in computer vision. What Philip was doing, he just come here and he tries to open. When it will, you will try to open it that way, it will give you such things which doesn't have any meaning. Doesn't have any meaning. You have to go and open it through the Jupyter notebook. And this is what you should do. Now I'll come here, I write my Jupyter. You see the Jupyter has been displayed. You just wait for it. Now, maybe I downloaded my Jupyter notebook and I saved it in my desktop. There, under my desktop, I saved it under the folder Artificial Intelligence. That one. Under Artificial Intelligence, I saved it under Computer Vision. I go there, and then I am opening my notebook. Maybe I want to open my notebook, which is known as Food Image Classification Model. I just go there and I open. As easy as that. You see how it is opening? Very slowly. Yes. And when I have opened, I want to pass through now my notebook. This is how I'm passing it through. I'm passing through. I'm seeing everything. Yes, I'm seeing every picture. This is a computer vision project. I'm seeing those nice soups that way. Yeah, you will see everything in your notebook. As easy as that. As easy as that. Now, let me go now to the one you have. You want to open this one. In my laptop, I've saved it under the desktop. Under membership, I go to membership. Then under membership, I've saved it under the folder known as notebooks. I go to notebooks. Here I've got a number of notebooks, but what now I'm using it right now to teach is known as Python Programming Chapter 1 to 6. I open it. Because it is a big document, you have to give it time. It opens just slowly like that. You give it time. Normally opens slowly because those codes are heavy. Yes, it has opened. After it has opened, you want to go up to where I've directed you. That is where you want to make a program that can assign marks, grades, and comments. And it is here. You just scroll slowly. It is here. And you start revising. It is as easy as that. You should not just open it when you have downloaded, you open it through the downloads. No, you have to open your Jupyter notebook in your Anaconda distribution first. Is that absorbed?
Thanks. I think it's clear.
Yes. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I felt highly refreshed to meet you this week. And I wish you all the best as you retire. If members have got no any other burning issue, you are free to leave the meeting. Goodbye.